A lawyer for the family of Aaron Hernandez says the late football player was suffering from a brain disease all too common among NFL players, CTE. Hernandez killed himself in April while serving a life sentence for murder. CBS Sports writer Bill Reiter and the host of Reiter Than You is here to talk to me more about this. Okay, so tell us, this is just so fascinating about his case, just when you think you've heard it all. What stands out about this scan?
I think the severity of the CTE that Hernandez has, according to Boston University, where most of the science is being done on this disease, and obviously the fact this is a man who was convicted of murder, who took his own life in prison, who doesn't draw a lot of sympathy from a lot of sports fans. It's going to be a catalyst for the conversation about CTE, not just the health and what its impacts are on players, but how it can possibly change behavior and maybe even egg on violent behavior.
Is there, I mean, he was only 27. Bill, I mean, 27. Is there an explanation as to how he had such an advanced stage of this disease?
There is, although it's very debatable. But there's a study that came out earlier this week that suggested that that young kids under the age of 12 playing contact football have signs of CTE. Now, a lot of people from the NFL office and even other scientists have tried to debunk that and say there's not enough data. They need longitudinal studies to really confirm this. But there's a strong sense in the scientific community, the folks who actually look at brain damage and brain disease and CTE, that playing football at a young age, before high school, and certainly high school included, can cause enough damage to give us what we saw in the brain of Aaron Hernandez.
You know, we're hearing more and more about these cases. There was a big blockbuster Hollywood movie about this. Is there a sense that it's changing the way they approach the NFL or college football?
I think so. There's an NFL protocol for concussions. Sammy Watkins, who played last night, is in it this week. You wouldn't have seen that 3 or 4 years ago. But that's another big debate. The NFL says we take it seriously. We're not sure that's quite as serious as some of the scientific studies claim, but we understand the health implications and we're on it. And folks who don't believe that are very vocal in saying the NFL's not doing enough. I think this debate will play out and affect football and fans one way or another for at least a decade or more to come.
Well, on to another serious topic. We know that a fan was hit at Yankee Stadium with a foul ball going 100 miles per hour. Is the MLB insisting on putting more netting up?
It's interesting, and the rate at which the ball is coming off the bat these days is at a really high level. We've got a historic number of home runs in Major League Baseball. A fan was hit at Yankee Stadium, a young girl. The San Diego Padres today actually announced, it's kind of a sea change, that they're going to put netting up after the season. Baseball is a traditional sport. It goes back more than a century. They don't like change, and frankly, most fans don't like the idea of having netting in their way unless they're right behind home plate. But I think because of fan safety, because of player safety, and because of the lawsuits that could come out of this, you're going to see a lot more netting going around ballparks in Major League Baseball to protect fans and to protect the organizations that could be sued by fans who are injured.
Do we know why the Yankees chose not to put it up yet?
Well, I mean, no, we don't. And the Yankees are obviously very sympathetic toward the young girl who was injured, and we think that she's okay. But that's it's Yankee Stadium, and that is the most traditional baseball team in a traditional sport. And change is usually very slow, especially in the sport of baseball.
Speaking of the sport of baseball, we've seen a record number of home runs hit this year in the MLB. Do you know why?
Well, this is really good. Do you believe in conspiracy theories? Because it depends who you ask. The last time we saw this many home runs, 17, 18 years ago, it was the juiced player era. We know now that players were using performance-enhancing drugs at a pretty high rate. So there's certainly a suspicion among some people that maybe that's going on again. But what players will tell you, what Major League pitchers will tell you, is that the ball itself has been changed, that Rawlings, who produces the baseballs, has somehow affected the stitching, and it's tighter and it doesn't break as much. It's coming off the bat at a quicker speed. Major League Baseball will tell you that's a whole bunch of hokey, and it's not true. But either the players or the balls are probably juiced. It lends itself to reason, because I can't imagine that all of a sudden hitters are the greatest home run hitters in the history of a 100-year plus year sport. Probably the balls change, and maybe the players have found some advantages.
Wow, that's fascinating to hear. I mean, all of a sudden, we just started seeing this uptick. And we've got a little football to talk about. So the Rams, their young quarterback, Jared Goff, had a great game against the 49ers Thursday night. Tell me a little bit about this.
I want to throw so much optimism to the people of LA because they need it and they deserve it. And you're right, Goff looked absolutely amazing, drafted #1 overall last year. And when he got into the starting position last season, he was more or less an utter and total disaster. Great last night. They're 2-1. They lead the division. I want to be positive, but I can't lie to the people, even in LA. They've beaten the Colts, and that's a historically terrible football team with Andrew Luck out. The Niners did score a lot of points last night, but San Francisco is not a very good team. The schedule gets really difficult. They start with Dallas next week. It gets harder from there. So I think the Rams are doing really good things. Goff looks like an NFL quarterback. That's a big change from last year. They brought in Sammy Watkins. He was phenomenal, and they found a connection, a chemistry. but I don't think it's time yet to crown the Rams an actual legitimate powerhouse in the NFL, but it's a very good start for a young QB under a lot of pressure.
We'll be watching. Bill Reiter, thank you so much for joining us.